Welcome to the Center for U.S. War Veterans Oral Histories at the National Guard Militia Museum of New Jersey in Seagirt, a partner of the Library of Congress's Veterans History Project. Today is October 7th, 2015. I am Carol Fowler, Director of the Center, and joining me again is Terrence Fearon, who has to finish up his interview today, and we'll go over some photos and more stories. Thanks for coming back, Terry.
Oh, thanks. Pleasure to be here.
Okay. Let's see. We want to talk about, you brought your project book today?
Yes.
Okay. And so we'll be going through it, and the photos that go along with the stories that you did tell in your interview should be covered. Okay. You were at Camp Lejeune.
The Seabees trained for a short period of time at Camp Lejeune because we did quite a bit of work with Marines, and it was always good to meet up with them on their ground.
Oh.
I know Marines don't really acknowledge many other people, but when you say you're a Seabee, they usually grin because we built quite a few things for them.
And they're grateful.
Very good group, usually first in. But we worked for all branches of the service and all different divisions.
Right. MCB 6?
MCB, Mobile Construction Battalion 6, Davisville, Rhode Island, ComCB Lant, 21st NCR.
What are your memories from Camp Lejeune that you mostly can
Well,
tell?
they trained us in many different things. Basically, it's give you more hard lessons in discipline, some spit and polish, but we were expected to work. We didn't really stand that many spit and polish inspections and whatnot.
Sure.
Taught us C4 demolition techniques and basically some more physical training. I went through Great Lakes
Oh, yeah.
boot camp out in, it was in 1966, I think.
Yep.
Then when we came back, we went up to Rhode Island for advanced infantry training. We were trained by Marines that had just come back from Vietnam. And that was...
That's interesting.
Yeah, we played war games there, like a red and a blue team, and you had passwords, you couldn't give it up. And then the Marines had a POW area that if you got captured, they would hang you upside down in a cold water stream or pond until you gave up the password.
Did you?
Yeah, after a while, nobody, your stomach can't keep you curled up for after a while, and they just keep you dunked. But it was, it taught you, and the guys really came back. They were in Vietnam, so what they were teaching you is stuff that you really needed to get an indication of what you might see.
Okay. The embark exercise?
At Seabees, we were the reactionary force battalion, and we had to be ready to be deployed anywhere in the world within 24 to 48 hours. So they had an island off the coast of Rhode Island that we were trained to assault the beach with it. We were on a landing craft, a naval landing craft, and we'd have quite a few different pieces of equipment and different tradesmen. And when we landed on a beach, I was a heavy equipment operator, so I had a bulldozer in there. And you would take, and if there was any obstructions on the beach, you would use the bulldozer to clear a path for Seabees to get in and build what we needed for the whatever the effort was that was going to be coming in. Many times we were building something that nobody knew what we were doing until the Marines came and landed.
Okay. And your job was to build?
Yes, I was a heavy equipment operator. I was trained at a Class A school in Rhode Island. That was in between the other training. I think it's the one with the Navy hats on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. This is a picture of our graduating class of a Class A school in Davisville, Rhode Island. There was, it looks like there was about 30 of us, and we were trained on all types of heavy construction equipment. Basically, they had about a 100-acre place on the bay in Quonset and Davisville. And we were like kids with toys, but they were 30-ton toys. We're learning how to run them.
Do you want to talk about any of this equipment?
Yeah, this was a road grader. There were many different types of machines that we learned. Road grader takes care of maintenance on roads and whatnot. It's more of a refining piece of equipment, where a bulldozer and earth movers are more gouging out of sight. This is a picture of a 80-ton transformer that we took a ship's engine. I think it was a Fairbanks huge ship engine, 6-cylinder, and we connected that to this transformer, and then we installed, I believe it's around 12 to 1,500 concrete telephone poles around Chulai, and electrified all of the Chulai base, which was a mega base.
What about this piece of equipment?
This was a bulldozer, just doing some road work. You would take that and just smooth the road out. Bulldozer was one of the easiest ones, piece of equipment to run.
And you want to talk about the road, was Route 1?
Yeah, Route 1, we had, I believe, about 20 miles north and south of Chulai we maintained Route 1. And the VC were always blowing Route 1 up to stop the war effort and stop the traffic. So we had a crew that was constantly, they were called the road runners, and they would constantly be repairing Route 1. I was a floater because I could operate any piece of equipment. I would go to different jobs if somebody was absent or didn't have enough people. So I was literally on almost every job that we had.
Does this remind you of any jobs?
Yeah, that was where we would be on Route 1, and we would have to install culverts to equalize the water pressure from the rice paddies because of the heavy monsoon rains. We would build Route 1 right over the rice paddy, and if you didn't put a culvert there to equalize the water, the weight of the water would wash the road out. So that was a constant process, and the gooks the VC would put satchel charges and float them down under the road and blow that culvert up. There was always one every day was blown up.
It's a lot. You mentioned the road runners. I like this group photo. It really captures the expressions on their faces, how hard the job was and how hard they worked.
Yeah, it's a constant thing, and the guys were out there a lot of times you're in the middle of nowhere, and it might be 5 miles away to the nearest assistance, but we were trained to repel any force that came against us and just continue to work.
Can you have a summary of the 67, 68 deployment?
Yes, it's a project book that comes from, it shows how many hundreds of thousand tons of rock we crushed and roads we built, and we built a hospital up in Tamkey, runways in Chulai, many different projects that were done.
Maybe we should talk about Tamkey now. January 68?
Yeah, Tamkey was where we were building a large hospital and storage complex. And it was overrun one night during Tet. And what would happen is if we were there, if we traveled from Chulai to Tamkey and we didn't get done with our time, we stayed overnight. So we were there when it got overrun.
Oh, I see. And?
I think 5 of our battalion got Purple Hearts, but I can't remember if it's exactly all of them were there at Tamkey or they were throughout. During Tet of 68 was the so-called high point of the war. It was like the finale of the fireworks constantly.
What do you remember that night in Tamkey, you personally?
It was mayhem. You know, it's just, it's about the only way you could say it, people running all over, and, you know, it's more like terrorism You know, could be a large force, but the people that were running through, you couldn't tell where they were. So it was just chaotic, I guess is the easiest way to describe it. And just like it started, it stopped because we were able to repel the opposing force.
How long did it last that night?
I forget, maybe a couple hours. And then when you call airstrikes in, that disperses the bad guys. That was the one good thing about the helicopter, the gunships. And if they were close by, then they could get to you fairly rapidly. Chulai was a main staging base for Marical Division and the gunships. That's a picture of me sitting on a sandbag. We call it a fighting hole in the Navy. We didn't call it a bunker, but that was our terminology. And that's the South China Sea behind it there. And it was just a bunch of us had just landed. You'll see I still have a long sleeve shirt on. This is like a couple days after we got off the plane from stateside. So until you got your short sleeve shirts. Mm-hmm. This is a picture of, we did a job, I think it might have been 8 miles outside of main camp on Route 1. And I think we were doing a turnaround. Route 1 was a lot of times was just 1 lane wide, so we would make turnarounds. Mm-hmm. And many times as we're doing a job, the Vietnamese would just appear. And we didn't know if, one of the fellows got his black pajamas on, so we don't know if that's a VC or they're just friendlies. Mm. So anytime that happened, some of us would have, make sure they had weapons trained on them, just to be aware of what was happening to us.
And this goes along with that story you told about the rice paddy?
Yeah, that one is the one that...
the dike?
We were putting a culvert in our Route 1, and it was just, once you cut Route 1, it's the same as if you cut a main artery here, right across the road, you have a 10-foot wide hole. And you have to put a culvert in. But what happens is the traffic backs up, and then in Vietnam you had a lot of foot traffic. So the vehicles stopped, but then a lot of the foot traffic would literally come all around us on the dams between the rice paddies. So I told a couple of the fellows to guard me as I run out. I said, we have to get a picture of this because nobody will believe it. We're out in the middle of nowhere and everybody's all around us and you can't really tell who's who. Sad the guys over in Iraq and Afghanistan now have the same problem because everybody looks the same. But it was just something that I wanted to get a picture that shows that everyone would be running on the rice paddies all around us to continue their daily work as they're traveling. There was a picture of Bridge 13, just shows how the VC would blow up a bridge, and I guess we rebuilt that many times. And the last time we did it, we got it pretty much cleared up. And if you turn that page around, you'll see we couldn't get, again, Route 1 had a time frame where you couldn't be on Route 1. And what happened, we had a brand new crane came down to help us finish the job and we couldn't get it out of there. We went up and stayed overnight at a Korean Marine base, and when we got back the next morning, they had blown that crane up. But their satchel charge on the bridge failed, so we actually was able to say we built Bridge 13. This is a picture of one of our operators in a quarry. We had a complete quarry operation in July. Was outside the main gate across Route 1 and up the side of a large hill structure was the quarry, and we would shoot the rock over there and then bring it down to the quarry that was the crusher that was inside Route 1, inside our main camp.
There's more of the quarry, which is still there. Still being used?
Yeah, actually I did that last night. I Google mapped it and now they showed the entire area for Chulai, which is built up into quite an area now, and you can zoom in and see the quarry is still there. How you tell it's in a circular area is in a circular fashion, and you can see different levels of where, in a quarry, what they do is they shoot the rock and then keep moving down on a level. They follow the strata. But it was interesting to see it's still there. And I guess they have it called Sand Bend Airport is the July runway appears to still be there also.
And when you got there, there was no electricity pretty much, so you have to build your own.
Yeah, that was where we took in that ship's engine and hooked that large transformer to it, and then set the concrete poles, and that was the distribution that came out of the main building and powered all of July.
So now a lot of houses are built up around there.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. You know, it's when we were there wasn't much of anything, but
Oh, and
these were pictures of July. We built additional runways, and many times, you know, you couldn't stop the war effort, so the planes would be landing and taking off on the runway next to us.
you know, talking about the infrastructure that you helped build there, the electricity, the airstrip, everything, your presence there is still having an impact, which is so unusual, especially for this war, to have any service unit be able to say that.
Actually, there's a picture that came out not long ago. Someone went over to one of the islands in the South Pacific where Seabees built a runway, and it's still there. And that's from World War II.
Right. So it's got to give you such a feeling of pride.
Well, I was blessed in the way that I had all of the intense military training, and the other half is the intense construction training.
Right.
So I was very successful in my civilian careers.
Oh, you want to talk about the sand and what you had to lay down first before you built anything?
Oh, they had Marshal Mating, it was called, and I guess it was born out of the need to have runways that could be repaired rapidly during war. And it was basically large pieces of steel that had perforations in it to allow water to pass through it. And we would connect that with air hammers. And you could make a runway out of it that would take a fairly large-sized plane, and it was great for helicopters because they could come down and sit right on top of it. And when the bad guys came, and if they got a couple holes in it, we could go out and just remove some of the pieces and repair it very quickly so the aircraft could continue to land or take off.
Interesting. And the watchtower?
Yeah, there's that one song I guess a lot of people remember is All Around the Watchtowers. We built, I forget how many watchtowers over there, but we had a crew that would build those.
And this is the hut that you're sitting inside of here?
Yeah, in the main camp in July, we had built huts. They were basically a plywood frame about 2 feet off the ground and had a tin roof on top of it. And the one half was screening, but then in the monsoon, we had flaps that would come down and cover it to try to stay warm.
This is July camp?
Yeah, this is main camp in our main camp in northern July main base, and in the background, you'll see the sand ramps. There's 3, I believe they call them LSTs, that used to bring all of the supplies for July and the surrounding area.
Oh, the cake for the birthday of the Seabees?
Yeah, even our cooks were intense as Seabees, and they built I think it was like 45-year anniversary for Seabees, so they made the largest cake in Vietnam.
It's amazing. I'll show it. The guys there. You had a story about sunrise?
Yeah, the sunrise, actually, the hill across Route 1 from July was always the VC were there shooting rockets and mortars trying to take down our aircraft or harm us. And this was a picture of every morning you would have the gunships. There were like red hoses because every fifth round is a tracer round. And you would watch them hosing the mountaintop, and then that would set off the alarm system for all the chulai. So we were always awake at 4:30 in the morning, and this was a shot seeing sunrise on the South China Sea.
As opposed to the moon, what was the moon like there?
Well, moon, I don't think anybody really liked that full moon because there was no light pollution. So when the full moon came up, it was just like broad daylight. And it was very easy for them to see us and us to see them, so.
Mm-hmm. And then we'll finish up with this picture.
That's just a picture of, I guess after 3-4 months there, and you can see his short sleeve shirts and a little bit ragged, but it was, those were part of the Hudson main camp. And basically more of the fighting holes that we called them. That was a CB name for them.
All right, we also wanted to cover your life after Vietnam. We wanted to cover everything that you ended up getting involved with. You already talked about what you did with the TV show and your influence getting Vietnam veterans seen in a better light and working with suicide prevention.
Yes.
Let's talk about the VFW and everything else that Gold Star Mothers. I don't know if we went into that too much.
Yeah, when I came back, I started a construction and demolition company, and then that morphed into some other businesses. But now we come forward to, in the '85, I was having some problems from my memories of Vietnam. And I got involved with eliminating the negative image programming of Vietnam veterans off of the airwaves. And I was dealing with some of the suicide prevention groups. There was one up in Lyons Hospital. I was outpatient at Lyons for a couple of years. Used to attend the groups, which is a good thing, because as a war veteran, you don't find many people you can relate to.
Sure.
After that, I started getting involved in VFW and American Legion, and about, I guess, 10 years ago, I connected with the New Jersey Gold Star Mothers. I'm the assistant to the president of Gold Star Mothers, Judy Tapper, and I found that they don't get that much attention, and they need help on some simple things. I had 2 of the homes for Gold Star Mothers got ravaged by Sandy. I was able to get Home Depot to rebuild their houses.
Wow.
I have another gal that's over in West Jersey now, Gold Star Mom. She gave $110,000 to a contractor, and he left after he pulled their house apart. So I'm in the process of having him chased down and have Home Depot possibly fix her house for her. So there's some different things. The true cost of war is our war dead. When we use the word fallen, to me, it's like, oh, Johnny fell. Well, he's going to get back up again. Well, these families are, every day is Memorial Day, and they bear the true cost of war. So I'm in the process now of, I assisted in getting the Gold Star family license plate through the Senate and the honorary member flag, and I now have a bill in front of the Senate to, if you hire a living veteran, the company gets a tax break. I want all of the benefits for living veterans to flow through to Gold Star family members, which seems to be only right. One of the things that really irks them is that they can't get onto a military base or go to the exchange. They have to fill out forms similar to just a civilian wanting to visit, but yet their hero gave his life for the country.
Right.
So I'm just in the process now of enacting more legislation to correct that inequity so that any benefit given to me or other living veterans should flow through to the Gold Star families.
Yeah, it makes sense. It really makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, I keep thinking that am I the first person to think of this?
Right, right.
You know, to me, it's, we always hear about, we have to remember our heroes, we have to do this, we have to do that. Now you see they did a great project, Wounded Warrior Project does a great job raising money for the Wounded Warriors. American Legion does that, BFW, which is all great. But no one raises money for the Gold Star mothers and Gold Star families. I found that out as a trustee on the Gold Star Family Monument Committee. We didn't have any large corporation donate money to build the Gold Star Family Monument Project in Homedale in front of the Vietnam Memorial Museum. So it just shows that people really don't know what that's about, and I'm amazed that many people don't know. Even service members I've talked to, they don't know what Gold Star families or Gold Star mothers are. And I've opted to change that.
Sounds like it. You're doing wonderful job with them.
Well, I'd like to give something back because, as I said, I have half of that bad experience and half of the good experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to help them with different things. One of the gals, they received a Purple Heart plaque with their hero's KIA date on it, and hers had the wrong date.
Hmm.
So in an hour, I had a new one.
What?
Yeah.
Wow, it's amazing.
Well, it's a group that when you begin to talk to people about getting something done for them and understand and get people to understand what they are and what they experience, they run a roller coaster of emotions daily. Every day is Memorial Day. They have that empty chair in their house where their hero used to sit. So it's some of the things that, and that will never go away for them. So to me, it's top of the food chain in veterans world, and just need to get the government to acknowledge that by flowing. You know, why should I, as a living veteran, get all these benefits and their hero is dead, so the family gets nothing? So we would like to change that. I know if it's a mother, if it's a husband or a wife of the hero and children, they are eligible to get veterans, but the mother, father, sister, brother aren't, and that irks them. And I think it's just the simplest thing that the government could do to support those people that literally gave it all.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned no major corporation helped. What about Home Depot is probably the only one that's really put anything out there for you?
Well,
Or the
Home
Gold
Depot
Star
did a
one?
great job. They have a program for assisting veterans with projects, and I was able, you know, naturally they do small projects for a veteran, but for the Gold Star Mothers, I was able to get 2 homes completely rebuilt. And they're going to go now to this other Gold Star Mom's house over in West Jersey, and should be able to get that rebuilt also. So it's something that people never really knew or asked what do they need.
Oh, okay.
See, so, you know, and it's something that, it's a sensitive group. Many times they don't want to talk. They are aggressive in certain things and passive in others. And it's difficult to explain that part, but they're not, they don't ask for a lot. Mm-hmm. So it's something that what I've started to do is say, you know, what do you need? As a Seabee, we would go into everybody's camp and say, what do you need done? Okay, we'll get that done for you.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So you're really describing a Seabee in civilian life,
Yeah.
getting things done. Like, we should talk about what you did for us with the tank out front.
Oh, I did that, I guess that's might be 4 or 5 years ago. I came in and I donated my web gear from Vietnam for my buddy Jimmy Scutier that was killed to the museum, and I talked to the curator and I said, gee, your equipment out there looks kind of shabby. So he said, yeah, we really need it cleaned up. So they got a power washer here in the base, and I power washed all the equipment. And it was getting about this time of year when it started to get cold, and the curator was able to, I think Joe Bilby was able to get the World War II exact paint for that funny looking OD green, and I painted the World War I tank there. And it was like 65-mile-an-hour wind one day and 70-mile-an-hour wind the next day.
No.
So it was the only time that I had booked, I was able to get that done. But yeah, it's really neat, and the museum has some wonderful things. It's like I've always heard this song, the caissons are rolling along, and then when I saw a caisson, I said, that's a caisson. I didn't know that because I wasn't in the Army.
All right.
Yeah.
What about the Brick VFW? You're active there as well?
Yeah, Brick VFW, I was commander over there for, I think about a year and a half, and we got, when Sandy hit, we ran a pass operation. We gave our facility to the town to run a pass operation for residents of the Barrier Island, because the National Guard had control of the Barrier Island in Brick, Manahawkin, and Bayhead. So people would have to come to the facility. We had like 500 a day would be out there at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And they could bring one suitcase. They left their license, which proved the house that they could go to if their house was still standing. And then they could bring back some of their personal belongings. And it was traumatic because one day the people would come back on the bus and say, well, gee, we didn't have any problems, but then another busload of people would come back from a different section and say their houses are gone. So we dealt with, we did that for like 3 months. The residents were able to, after about 3 weeks, I think they started letting them have one car to go across with passes, but then their contractors had to come through our VFW to get a pass to go over. Our highest day was we had like 880 contractors in the morning, and then at 880 in the afternoon they had to come back and get their documentation back. But it was an emergency operation. Actually, the residents from Toms River didn't have an operation going, and they had called up, and I invited them over to see what we were doing. And I said, well, you have police, you have school buses, you should be able to do the same thing.
Right.
And I guess they had some sort of meeting with 2,000 residents, and they weren't getting anything done. So that next day, the activists came and saw what we were doing. And we had 2 Red Cross trucks giving out food. We gave out tons and tons of flood supplies. It was on and on. We turned out for the residents in the town.
That's beautiful.
And then we did over the years of some of the other projects that I did was the Gold Star Family License Plate. We got that through. The Honor and Remember flag is a flag that the Gold Star mothers can receive, and they get their hero's name embroidered on the bottom of it, where you can't do that to an American flag. And they'll display it in their house. They'll display it outside on the hero's birthday or special holidays. So it's something that gives them a little bit of comfort.
Of course.
So it's some people like it, some people don't like the flag, but and I ask them right away, are you a Gold Star family member? No. I said, well, then you don't understand the feeling that they have for that flag. And if that's a small thing that you can give them,
For comfort, yeah.
Right, why not? And then we just did, one of the recent ones was, it's about 2.5 years ago, we found that the Route 35 drawbridge, the huge bridge that has been there for many, many years, was going to be named for a civilian who wasn't a veteran, because the World War II vets named it Veterans of All Wars Memorial Bridge back in 1949 or 50, and it was done on a reoccurring resolution. Well, through housekeeping in Trenton, it didn't get reoccurred, so the name dropped off the bridge. And hence, when this person's son did a search to find a bridge he could name for his father, for whatever reasons he had, this bridge came up. Luckily, we found that, we blocked that, and is now, we had a law enacted in the state, and it's now dedicated in perpetuity, Veterans of All Wars Memorial Bridge. And also we had lastly, we did the New Jersey Run for the Fallen, which has started out 7 years ago, I believe it is, to honor the Iraq and Afghanistan veterans that gave their lives. And every mile is marked for a hero. This year, active duty personnel from the Joint Base ran 188 miles. I guess about 45 miles a day. And they've added some markers now. We finished up at the Vietnam Memorial and honored the Vietnam veterans. But all along the route, there's Sunset Beach was where we started in Cape May, and the gentleman just passed away that used to raise flags. You would bring your hero's flag and he would raise it and fly it for a day, and then bring that down and give it back to you. He just passed away. So they started there and ran all the way up. And at the end of the run, when we came into the Vietnam Memorial Museum area, we had set the Gold Star Family Monument, which came out beautifully, and we had a large ceremony for that. There's approximately 200 Gold Star families in New Jersey alone.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's been my mission to, I guess, just to help them get some comfort.
Yes, you've been doing a wonderful job. And thank you also for recruiting a veteran from your VFW, who I'll be meeting this week, John Pearson.
Oh, John Pearson, yeah. John is a Korean veteran, and he'll have some great stories to tell you. And he's actually still a qualified, certified diver.
Oh, okay. He has a dive event in Seagirt that night, so.
Oh, yeah, he's still a diver there. He had a little bump in the road medically, I think a year or 2 years ago, but he came back and they recertified him.
It's incredible.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Very inspiring.
Yes.
Is there anything else that we left out?
No, I think it covers quite a bit. We just, I like to end by saying that any comfort you can give Gold Stars is something that I would ask.
Terry, I'm honored and humbled that you're here today and spoke to me of your sacrifice and contribution that you made in service to your country. Thank you. God bless you. Welcome home.
Okay, thank you.